What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. The Critics' Choice Awards are happening this weekend in Los Angeles, and guess what? I get on a plane tomorrow morning to fly out there to attend this awards ceremony. So stay tuned to this channel. We may have a special video or two, and if you don't follow me on TikTok, I'm going to be vlogging some things. If I run into Andrew Garfield or something, you may see that video. But before that point, I want to give you guys my predictions on who is going to take home each award and give you some insight into who I chose, who I cast my vote for, because I do get a say in what happens. What does it mean? I don't know, to be honest with you, but I do have a say. I need your all's comments down below. Who will win each specific category, and what does this mean for the Oscars? Again, different voting body. These are not my predictions for the Oscar winners, but I do think there will be some overlap as always. So let's get into this. We're going to start with the smaller categories, move our way up to the bigger ones, but unlike certain awards ceremonies, I'm going to show you all of them. Start with the easier ones to kind of predict here. Best score, definite overlap with what I chose and what I believe will win. Even though part of me wants to say Johnny Greenwood has a shot for The Power of the Dog, just because The Power of the Dog critic supremacy, that's kind of what the mentality has been for so long, but it's not enough to overtake Hans Zimmer for Dune. I think there's going to be a clean sweep for Zimmer this award season. At least, I hope so. Let's move into Best Song, and this is also a fairly easy one for me. There are some great choices on here. We know the splash that Encanto is making. Be Alive for King Richard is a good one. But No Time to Die, it just feels like that song that flows perfectly with what the critics' mentality has been. Is it the song that I voted for? I have a soft spot for Encanto, so I may have went in that direction. There are actually a handful of songs from that film that I love. But, of course, No Time to Die, I think, is going to end up taking it this weekend. Let's get into another important category, and as difficult as part of me wants this to be, you know, between The Worst Person in the World and Drive My Car, two high-quality films, and personally, I am choosing The Worst Person in the World, but that is not my prediction. My prediction is the movie that got nominated for Best Picture. That is Drive My Car. I believe it is almost a shoo-in to take home this award at this ceremony and at the Oscars. It's fairly simple so far. Let's keep moving here. We have our next category, that is Animated Feature, and this one becomes a little bit tougher because critics were really in love with The Mitchells vs. the Machines. I was in love with The Mitchells vs. the Machines. That was my choice. But in coming up with my prediction, I have to look at the tide and the way it shifted just a bit lately, and that is the fact that Encanto is really blowing up right now. I mean, at the end of last year, it's kind of the talk of the town as of late, especially coming on Disney Plus and making a huge splash there. I'm going to say Encanto takes home this award. We just voted right, and Encanto, it feels like it's at the top right now. But again, Mitchell's is my favorite from this list. The next category is a very interesting one. This is Best Comedy. Now, clearly there's no Oscars overlap here. We have some tough choices to choose from because the last couple of years, Critics' Choice has went more so in the comedy direction and less so in the, oh, well, this movie was nominated for Best Picture, so clearly it's the best comedy. That hasn't been the case, and I actually appreciate that. When you're voting for Best Comedy, you should go with the best comedy. Now, I personally did not love a couple of comedies on this list. The ones that I'm focused on, though, is a movie like Free Guy, which would never win. I mean, it would never win this award at the Critics' Choice, but personally, I'm like, okay. But at the end of the day, I come back to Licorice Pizza. Not only is it the most well responded to in terms of the critics, but it's also a genuinely compelling comedy, and a lot of the movie is comedic, and I just don't personally think the critics are going to be voting for Don't Look Up when the critics didn't really give Don't Look Up the best response. I know certain critics love it, but the ones who don't, they don't even really like it. So I can't go with Don't Look Up because we're talking critics voting on this category. I'm going to go with Licorice Pizza. It's the easiest choice. It's the Best Picture nominee, but I do think it's a pretty compelling comedy. All of those things combined, it's tougher, for sure. It was also my personal choice. I almost went with Free Guy. The French Dispatch, I don't see as much as a comedy, but I do think it's a really quality movie to be on there. The other two, they were fine. Best visual effects, there are actually some pretty good movies to choose from here, but I'm not going to waste your time and talk about it for forever. It's Dune. I think Dune's going to take home this victory. I voted for Dune, I love the other choices, but let's move on. Best hair and makeup. This one's really tough. Personally, I'm going to lean towards 3 films: House of Gucci, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and Dune. Because all 3 of those movies have one character or maybe a couple of characters in deep, massive amounts of prosthetics, right? We think of The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Both of those leads look vastly different than they do in real life. Of course, our villainous presence in Dune, and then in House of Gucci, Jared Leto, who's playing Mario. Now, where do I narrow it down with my prediction? I'm going to say the same 3 films, but I'm actually going to predict The Eyes of Tammy Faye for this category because you have 2 of them. Chastain is really prominent in terms of, getting nominated for Best Actress. I would personally put it over something like House of Gucci because House of Gucci was less beloved by critics, and I do think that may end up factoring in at the end of the day. Dune, I just feel like Dune's going to sweep a lot of these other technical categories, so I want to show some love to another film. I would choose The Eyes of Tammy Faye personally, and I think The Eyes of Tammy Faye, they're actually going to take this award. So let's move into the next one, that is Best Costume Design. Very similar mindset for me with Dune. I think it's going to, take some of the other technical ones. House of Gucci gets close. Honestly, West Side Story gets close. But my choice here, both which movie I picked and my prediction, is Cruella. You think of Cruella, I think of that scene where she is literally changing costumes constantly, and all throughout the movie, it's a big factor into the film, and I think the costume design is genuinely great in the movie, so crazy enough, I think Cruella's taking this award. Best Editing. Man, oh man, part of me really wants to go with the underdog in this category, and I believe the underdog is West Side Story. I think Dune ends up taking it, so I'm going to predict Dune. But personally, I actually voted against Dune. I know it's crazy. I have Dune above a lot of these movies, but I voted against Dune and I went for West Side Story, just kind of rewatching West Side Story all the way through and paying more attention to the musical numbers and how it was all put together. I found the editing to be incredible. Dune is the obvious choice here, so I'm going to go safe with my prediction, but it's going to be close between those 2. Production design. Another one where I could go the Dune route, and it probably would be the safe choice to do it, but Nightmare Alley has been in the conversation for production design. It feels like ever since we got that first trailer, and now that it has released and we've had some time to soak it in, and it's getting nominations across the board and more love than I initially thought, even though I do enjoy the film, I'm probably going to go Nightmare Alley. It feels like an outlandish choice to a degree, but I actually voted for Nightmare Alley. I think this movie is phenomenal with its production design. French Dispatch would probably be my second choice personally, but Nightmare Alley, that's the one thing that it thrives in. I think critics are going to notice that. Ooh, another one. I could go outlandish. I could go off base and go with a West Side Story. I could also say The Power of the Dog. The look and feel of that movie is amplified drastically by its cinematography. And again, I'm trying to approach this from the mindset of a critic as opposed to an Oscar voter. My personal choice, I was actually between West Side Story, Dune, and The Tragedy of Macbeth. The Tragedy of Macbeth, the cinematography is outstanding. I actually prefer the production design in that movie, but it's outstanding. My choice, though, my prediction, I'm going to play it safe here. I'm going to go Dune. Again, I said it's going to take a lot of these technical categories. I feel like I could get bit in the butt on a couple of these. This is one of those where I think the voters could go the West Side Story direction. But once again, playing it safe, going Dune, that's my prediction. Best Adapted Screenplay. As the categories get bigger, it becomes easier. I'm going The Power of the Dog, and I really don't think there's a lot of competition. Now, part of me believes that the only movie that could give it a bit of a run for its money, actually, you know what I'm going to say too? I'm going to say The Lost Daughter, sort of, not really. Coda is the other one because it's been making a surge, but I feel like the surge is less with the critic body and more with what maybe would be voters in different award shows. So I'm still going The Power of the Dog. That is the critical darling. It's also like the Oscar darling. So it's a lot of darlings. What? And then original screenplay. This one's a little bit tougher because you have Belfast, you have Licorice Pizza. Now, I think critically, which one stands out a bit more? It is Paul Thomas Anderson. It is Licorice Pizza. What do I believe their mindset is going to be when voting? I think that's the way they're going to go. I think they're going to go Licorice Pizza. Now, Belfast feels more like an Oscar darling than Licorice Pizza, But you look at screenplay and PTA, I mean, he's one of the icons. I do think it is a great screenplay. This was my personal choice. I do not think a movie like Being the Ricardos or Don't Look Up has a chance in this category, even though, clearly they were good enough to get nominated. I still believe it's going to go PTA for Licorice. Best Director, otherwise known as the Jane Campion category, The Power of the Dog. This one's easy. Mark it down. She's going to win. She's going to sweep. It's Jane Campion sweep. That's what they say on Twitter for numerous people. But I love the category. My God. Spielberg, Villeneuve, it's a phenomenal, it's a stacked category this year. And where it is critics, I feel more inclined to say Jane Campion's not a 100% lock here, but I think she's like a 95% lock. Where are my statistics coming from? I'm just making them up, to be honest with you. Jane Campion. Acting Ensemble, another category we do not get with the Oscars. Man, what a stacked category here, though. Belfast, Don't Look Up, The Harder They Fall, Licorice Pizza, The Power of the Dog, West Side Story, and, I could go the easy route. That's Power of the Dog, but Power of the Dog, it's going to win picture, it's going to win director. Okay, let's go a little bit differently. Others could go the Licorice Pizza route because the cast is a standout in that film. I am going to play it very safe here. Because Belfast doesn't look like it's going to win any other awards, I think critics voting, I didn't vote for Belfast, but critics voting could look at Belfast and say, all right, this is the one, because you have Ciarán Hinds, you have Jamie Dornan, you have Catriona Balfe, you have an incredible cast of phenomenal actors who gave great performances, yet none of them are going to win in their respective categories. So let's give them Acting Ensemble. That would be my mentality. That's the mentality I see a lot of people voting with, so I think Belfast is going to win. But in second place, don't be surprised if The Power of the Dog takes this one too. Best Young Actor or Actress. Is this the category of the day? I actually think it is. This is one of my favorite young actor-actress categories I've seen in a long time. I could vote for any of them. Cooper Hoffman was incredible. Jude Hill in Belfast. Emilia Jones in Coda. Woody Norman, my personal favorite, and Come On, even though I don't think he has a chance, sadly. Sania Sidney in King Richard and Rachel Zegler in West Side Story. I believe it comes down to three of them. I think it's either Emilia Jones in Coda, Rachel Zegler in West Side Story, or Jude Hill in Belfast. And I think they're going to go Hill here. Part of me believes they could go Zegler because she kind of came out of nowhere, even though there's been talk that her performance has been amazing for months upon months now. You also have the rise of Coda with Troy Kotsur, with now Emilia Jones. They could go in that direction, but Jude Hill has been at the forefront of the critical reception for Belfast. He's a very sweet kid. He gave a great performance. I think that's the direction they lean, but honestly, any of these could take it home. My personal favorite, though, was Woody Norman. Best Supporting Actress, Ariana DeBose. That's it. I mean, I was so divided personally between Andowed and DeBose. Like, who am I going to vote for? But who do I think the Critics' Choice Awards is voting for? It is DeBose. It has been DeBose. It will continue to be DeBose. She's going to win every award this season. Fairly easy. Let's move on. Supporting Actor. For a long time, it was Cody Smith-McPhee for The Power of the Dog. But things tend to shift in this awards race across the board. And as of late, multiple ceremonies, you've been seeing it go from Cody Smith-McPhee to Troy Kotsur. And I believe Troy Kotsur is going to take this one home, especially just the love that he's been getting recently, not only from Twitter, not only from fans, but I think critics are starting to board that ship as well. And why not be a part of that? I personally voted for Troy Kotsur, absolutely. And this isn't just bias. I think Troy Kotsur is going to take this one home. And man, oh man, to see him win that Oscar. I loved his performance. It was one of my favorites of last year. Yeah, I think that's our winner. Best Actress. Oh my goodness. This one is so hard. It's hard with the Oscars, but I think it's even harder with the Critics' Choice Awards because it's like, what direction do the critics lean in? I know the Oscars are less likely to go the Kristen Stewart route, but with critics, it's almost that comeback story. It's almost, she was down and out for a while. We didn't think she would get the nominations. She got the nominations, and now Kristen Stewart takes it home, and she seems to be the critical darling. Now, part of me wants to say Jessica Chastain could take this as well, because I said there's going to be a lot of love for The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I don't think Gaga has a chance. Alana Haim is like one of my personal favorites. Nicole Kidman Critics weren't super high on Being the Ricardo, so I believe it comes down to Stewart, Chastain, and a lot of Haim. But I'm going to give it to Kristen Stewart. It's one that I personally feel like should happen, especially with this specific awards ceremony. This will probably be her getting her due, because I don't know if she's going to get it at the Oscars. So if she gets it anywhere, it is Critics' Choice. She is my prediction, although it's very tough. Best Actor, seeing Nicolas Cage on this list gives me great joy. It gives me great happiness, and I love to see it. But we know the mainstays, at least at the Oscar ceremony. There's a top three. It's Andrew Garfield, Will Smith, Benedict Cumberbatch, in whatever order you want to put it in. I personally, and I've said this, I'm on record saying this, I'm going to go Andrew Garfield as my favorite of all of them. It's tough. I loved Will Smith. Will Smith's one of my favorite actors, and I loved what Cumberbatch was able to do, but for some reason, Andrew Garfield, it's just been sticking with me a bit more, and I thought he gave the performance of his life. That being said, my choice is Will Smith. I think critics are going in that direction. They've been leaning in that direction for a while. Right now, it feels like the feel-good choice and decision, and that's not a bad thing. That's just the way it looks and feels, because Will Smith has been campaigning so hard for this. His entire career, it feels like it has been building to this. Now, that's not a reason to give him an award. He gave a great performance, but it's such a tough category. You have to give someone something somewhere. A lot of S's. And I'm giving that to Will Smith, and those are my reasonings why, but I would not be shocked if it's either of those other two. All right, we have Best Picture, West Side Story, Tick, Tick, Boom, The Power of the Dog, Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza, King Richard, Dune, Don't Look Up, Coda, and Belfast. What a list. What a group of movies. This is such a hard choice, but I think you guys know what direction I'm leaning. Let me scroll down so we can see it. There it is. It's The Power of the Dog. We obviously want to go for a film that got a lot of awards recognition throughout the ceremony. I think The Power of the Dog fits that bill. I also just believe there's so much love for Jane Campion, for her script, for what this movie did. That's the film that everybody's leaning towards. Now, which movie did I choose? Honestly, it was super tough. I was between West Side Story, Dune, and Coda? Because it's just that movie that warms my heart. Well, Austin, it's not prestigious. It's not blah, 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 blah. I love Coda. I don't care. To take a feel-good movie, at least that's what it seems like on its surface, and go to the depths that they did with the characters and just the way that it hits and pulls on your emotions. I loved Coda. I also loved West Side Story. But, you know, I'm a big Dune fan. So that's the one that I kind of went with. But I do think it's going to be Power of the Dog. I'm actually very confident it's going to be Power of the Dog. We'll see, guys. We'll see. Now, I need your thoughts down below. What is your prediction? And then what are your choices for these awards? This is not my Oscar predictions. We're going to do plenty of Oscar videos on this channel. I will be ranking all of the Best Picture nominees and putting them in my personal order. You could probably see where that's going to go if you look at my 2021 list. But I just want to say, oh, and things have changed, by the way. It's not all the same. But I want to say, thanks so much for joining me. Again, if you'd like to support this video specifically, that would be awesome. It means the world to me, especially something that's a little bit different, like talking about the Critics' Choice Awards. But again, be on the lookout. I'm going to be there Sunday. Myself, one of my best friends. I'll be updating you guys on Twitter, TikTok, probably on YouTube, all of those things. Just stay tuned because it's going to be a ton of fun. I'll see you soon.